Hi, Rabbi.
Good evening. It takes me time, a minute or two till it opens, but Baruch Hashem, it opens.
Okay, thank God.
Look a second at the end of the Parashat Be'alotcha. Look a second on Perek Yud Aleph. פסוק כ"ד. ויצא משה וידבר אל העם את דברי השם ויאסוף 70 איש מזקני העם ויעמד אותם סביבות האוהל. Who are the 70 people? Rashi says that those who served in Mitzrayim as the policemen appointed by the Egyptian, they were beaten by the Egyptian if they did not oppress the Jews. Those are the ones who were elected to be the 70. But if there are 12 Shvatim and each one should give 6, it's 72. So Rashi says that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote 72 notes and 70 wrote Zaken.
For the locksmith.
And 70 wrote Zaken, and then the 2 he wrote empty. So listen carefully what happened now. וישארו שני אנשים במחנה, שם האחד אלדד ושם השני מידד. They were very humble, and they refused to come סביב למחנה to join the 70. And they started to prophesize. What did they prophesize? The Gemara, we said this morning, Moshe met, Yeshua machnis la'aretz, fine. But here is the key now. This is the introduction to what we're about to say. וירץ הנער ויגד למשה ויאמר אלדד ומידד מתנבאים במחנה. What's so bad if אלדד ומידד מתנבאים במחנה?
About what?
Rabbeinu Nissim explains that the biggest danger, Moshe Rabbeinu is an absolute leader. The minute you share inspiration and power with others, so the idea is everyone should see that they are near Oil Moed, and if you see in the Psukim are saying, ויאסוף 70 איש מזקני העם ויעמד אותם סביבות האוהל, וירד השם בענן, וידבר אליו to משה, ויעצל מן הרוח אשר עליו. Was clear that from the spirit that is engulfing Moshe, they are getting also, which means it's obviously that you're not standing on your own feet, you're under the umbrella of Moshe. But וישארו שני אנשים במחנה. This is why this Nar is running to Moshe. Hey, they're not near Or Moed. And Yeshua wants to lock them up. Fine. Listen what happens afterwards here. Look a second in Perek Yud Bet. Perek Yud Bet, Pasuk Aleph. This is an introduction to the main thing I'm going to say in a minute. ותדבר מרים ואהרון במשה. What did they speak about? Says, look at the Rashi, if you have access to Rashi. Says Rashi in Pasuk Aleph, ומנין הייתה יודעת מרים שפירש משה מן האישה. רב נתן אומר, מרים הייתה בצד ציפורה, so the two sister-in-laws, Miriam and Tzipora, are standing together, בשעה שנאמר למשה, אלדד ומדד מתנבאים במחנה. Innocently says Miriam, I feel bad. They are becoming prophets, these two. The wives are going to lose the same way my husband separated himself from me. Miriam never heard it before. And Tzipora, the only reason she said it is when she saw that these two. So what are they, listen carefully, what are they speaking now? Look at the pasuk. ותדבר מרים ואהרון במשה על אודות האישה הכושית אשר לקח. ויאמרו, אחר כך במשה דיבר השם, הלא גם בנו דיבר. וישמע השם. They thought that they are on the same level of Ruach HaKodesh as Moshe. So they said, we are also prophets. Aaron was a prophet before Moshe. Miriam is also Miriam Hanaviyah. So they are saying, רק אך במשה דיבר השם? No one ever told us to be separated from their husbands. So of course, Hashem is telling them, how can you compare to, you are regular prophets, he's Moshe. But look now, what the Torah inserted in Pasuk Gimel. והאיש משה עניו מאוד מכל האדם אשר על פני האדמה. זאת אומרת, the Torah is telling us the way the Rambam and the Rishonim explain, she is the sister of Moshe. See, she put her life on the line to protect Moshe. And they didn't say anything bad. The Torah says, and Moshe was not bothered by it. והאיש משה עניו מאוד, Moshe was not bothered by it. אף על פי כן, says Rambam, she was punished so severely and only because Moshe prayed for her. She got a much smaller punishment, kal vachomer we, fine. So we understand what the Torah is telling us here. So והאיש Moshe is part of the description what happened. And Moshe it didn't bother Moshe at all. אף על פי כן.
So I heard a different explanation today on this exact line.
To which part?
To this exact line. Why the pasuk said, "Va'anish Moshe anav meod." Well, what's the purpose of this in all the story? So this line is actually explaining everything as to why Miriam even said what she said. It's because if you go to the beginning of the story, Miriam heard it from Tzipora that once these two Navis prophesied, she said, to their wives, I feel bad for their wives, whatever she said. Miriam heard, she went to Aaron. She didn't tell Tzipora. She went to her own brother, said, I don't understand. How come Moshe is separated from his wife? Right? That's the Mashon Hara. She didn't understand. Aren't we also prophets? She did it in the most simplistic way. It's because Moshe was such a anav that not even his own wife knew that the way Hashem spoke to him.
Okay.
He didn't want to tell his sister and his brother.
Very good. You're adding that they didn't know it. The only way the
Nobody
family.
knew it. Not even his wife, not even he didn't want to, bring down
You
his
mean
older brother and
not
older
even his
sister.
sister, you mean?
He didn't want to bring down his older brother and sister that he gets nubuah greater than them. Nobody knew what happened to That's why she asked. She did it she didn't know. Nobody knew. That's why Hashem had to take her out and tell her, he's not like you. He doesn't get the same. And I think the word they use in the pasuk is it was a sudden prophecy that Hashem spoke to them. It wasn't a regular nevuah. It was the same nevuah that Moshe gets. They all got it at the same time and told them to go outside the machane and explain.
Right. Very, very good. The question is, why is the Torah using, תקשיב טוב עכשיו, והאיש משה ענב מאוד. מה זה והאיש? תכתוב, ומשה ענב מאוד. What does איש have to do with anything? If you really think about it, זה קושייה עצומה. בפשט. ומשה ענב מאוד מכל האדם אשר על פני האדמה.
I didn't hear anything about this one. What's the ish? I think they talk about it. They do drashot on it later on the ish. And
No, what you remember is the end of Sefer Devarim, Moshe Isha Elokim. So the Orach Chaim HaKadosh in Bezot HaBaracha says, מה זה איש האלוקים? Maybe later I'll come back to it. I saw today דבר עמוק מאוד, זה Shaul was selected to be the king, and Shaul, the Psukim says, there was no one in Israel like him. Shaul was exceedingly humble, to a tremendous ma'ala. But because he was so humble and he didn't know that as a king, you have to act as a king sometimes. For instance, when Shmuel tells him, Aloim katon ata be'inecha, rosh shivtei Israel ata. This is not time to be humble. You're the king now. How can you be afraid of the people? This is what king is about. And later, Shmuel is saying that after Shmuel rebuked him a few times, finally Shaul says, Ki yareti etam. In Tanakh, you see, even before the story of Amalek, that Shaul was afraid, which means the Torah here is revealing us a secret. The secret is being Anav is the biggest gift you can have. But you have to remember Ve'aish Moshe. The greatness of Moshe was he knew when he has to be humble, but he knew when to be Ish. The uprise of Korach, Moshe suddenly says, Im kemot kol adam yemutin. This Moshe said on his own, you realize this was not a prophecy. Why? Ve'aish Moshe. He realized that when is in stake everything the Torah wants you to do. Korach is questioning Torah Sinai. Korach is questioning. Moshe Rabbeinu understands he has to do what he has to do to Korach, to great people. This is why the Torah says here, והאיש משה ענב מאוד מכל האדם אשר על פני האדמה. The Orach Chaim HaKadosh says, in Vezot HaBeracha, and the pasuk ולא קם בישראל, ולא קם בישראל כמשה, says the Orach Chaim, the reason why ולא קם בישראל כמשה is because והאיש משה ענב מאוד. One has to do with the other. This is, now the question is, Salim, why being so humble is essential to greatness. Why?
it's the same.
I mean, you
Same
realize
problem with
all
kings
this
and Shaul.
well, what?
It's the same problem with kings. And the first example is Shaul. Shaul was very humble, and the power gets to you, and you have to have a supreme amount of humbleness to make sure the power doesn't.
Right,
I
right,
don't think it's you. It's
right. The greatness of a real king of David. He knew that he's Eved Hashem. There's no questions. If you pay attention in Chumash, anything that happens, the Torah says, כאשר ציווה Hashem את Moshe. And this was the greatest point that the Or HaChaim HaKadosh says, this is why לא קם בישראל כמו שעוד. Look a second when Hashem is rebuking Aaron and Miriam. Listen what Hashem is telling him. שמעו לה דבריי. אם יהיה נביאכם Hashem, even if you have a prophecy, and Aaron, remember, was a prophet in Egypt while Moshe was still in Midian. במראה אליו התוודע, בחלום מדבר בו. He receives this prophecy בחלום. לא כן עבדי משה, בכל ביתי נאמנו. פה אל פה אדבר בו, ומראה ולא בחידות, ותמונת השם יביא. ומדוע לא יראתם לדבר בעבדי במשה? But Hashem is telling them, the reason why you're questioning Moshe's separation is because you think that you're also prophets. It's a totally different level of prophecy. Peh, which means the level of nevuah that he has, is not bechalom, it's panim el panim. As a matter of fact, the Ibn Ezra at the beginning of the parasha says, if you remember Parashat Naso, the last pasuk in Parashat Naso is the 772, ובבוא משה לא אל מועד, לדבר איתו. When Moshe came to speak to Hashem, וישמע את הקול מדבר אליו, the voice came to him from above the כפורת, בין שני הכרובים. This is the end of Parashat Naso. If you think about it, why is it written after the Nesiim? And Parashat Behalotcha begins with the menorah. Says the Ibn Ezra, here it is. The connection between the menorah and Bo Moshe, even though normally the Gemara says in Sanhedrin that Hashem talks to Moshe during the day only, but Ubebo Moshe lo el moed, even at night after the menorah is lit, for him, this is not Laila, and Hashem communicating with him even at night. Only, says the Ibn Ezra, when he came to Oel Moed. The Chidush Gadol of the Ibn Ezra, the Ramban strongly disagrees, but the commentators answer the Ramban's question. It says that the Nevuah is only by Yom, it's only by Yom outside. So at night, Moshe would not receive Nevuah. But in Oel Moed, when Moshe is coming in and the menorah is lit, Laila ki Yom Yair, it's like, and this is why some of the 13 principles of faith, אני מאמין באמונה שלמה, שנבואת משה רבינו עליו השלום הייתה אמיתית, and he is the father of all the prophets. There was never. Why? במראה ולא בחידות, פנים על פנים. We're not talking about the muftim that he performed, only as a prophet now. It is a fascinating pasuk in this week's parasha that the Torah is talking, Hashem is telling Moshe to עשה לך חצוצרות. If you have the Chumash, it's 782, if not, it's Parakiyud. Hashem says to Moshe in Pasuk Bet, עשה לך חצוצרות. Make for yourself 2 silver trumpets. What does it make for yourself? Make. What is for yourself? And the trumpets serve a triple purpose. If you blow with 2, all the dignitaries are coming, and they're being used to congregate everyone. And they're being used before they are moving and traveling. Fine. But מה זה עשה לך, לך? So the Gemara learns out for me that the trumpets that he used cannot be used by others. Which means after Moshe died, Yeshua had to make new chatzitzot. Okay, so the diuk is asay lecha, has to be used. The commentators are using it in a very powerful metaphoric mashal. Every generation has a trumpet, has music, how to wake the people. The language that great rabbis are speaking to people, or the type of music. Moshe Rabbeinu is Moshe Rabbeinu. People saw Moshe Rabbeinu from Tel Makot and on for 40 years. The way he spoke to the people was different than Yoshua, for instance, yes? I'm using just an example. In today's day and age, if a teacher would smack a kid, he might be sued, he might be... Salim, you went to Flatbush, no one ever smacked you. Nico, did you ever anyone smack you in Flatbush? No. Ask your father, you'll find out that what? This was a daily education. Whoop! I mean, people told me that in the old Magen David, the teacher, either he smacked you or...
But in Ahiezer, when I first came, we had a teacher, the ruler, used to hit us in the hand when we got the wrong answers.
Right. Now, okay, you understand why legally we stopped it, because they are very abusive people and they might use the excuse educating the kid to be violent. But in general, yes, today's teachers has a different tool. The tongue. You? How can you open your mouth? What are you, a 00? No less than a 0. I didn't touch you. The kid says to me once, I wish a teacher would smack me and give me this type of...
We had Rabbi Elnad.
What?
Rabbi Elnad was a Chazan. He's actually the son of the principal, Magen David.
Yeah.
So he taught in Flatbush. Did you know that? I had to pick him up. So when he was in Magen David, he could hit kids. He was hitting kids. When he came to Flatbush, He couldn't hit kids. So one day he got so mad, he picked up a desk and threw it all the way to the back of the room while we were in his Gemara class.
Hey, you have
He was
this?
teaching. Yeah, he was in Flatbush in high school when I had him. He took a desk and he threw
You
it
see,
against the wall.
the commentators say this is Aseh Lecha Chatzitzrot, Moshe. The educational tools that you use, the manner, the language that you spoke is for you. Another leader, right, has to speak differently. Today, if you listen carefully, the world is geared, the kids are always right. Is it right? Sometimes it's right, many times it's wrong, yes. But it's the same about us as parents, yes. The kid once, as it happened, he was an Egyptian. He says to me, my father is so harsh on me in the house. So I spoke to his father in the PTA. He says, listen, I grew up in Egypt. This is the way I was raised. He told him, this is in Egypt. Today, it's not a question if legal or not. If you want your son to completely go away from you, do it. No. Is it right or wrong? If the smack comes from love, see, the minute a man is angry and he's punishing right away, you always miss the point because the anger, the message we sent is, don't mess with my father, you know. But Rebbe Lapian, Alav Shalom, yes, this is 80 years ago. When his kids really, deserved it, he used to wait an hour. Then he used to call the kid, he said, you remember what you did an hour ago? I have to do something. What do you think I should do to you? Any smack that you're giving the kids after an hour shows the kid that you are not doing it out of anger. From Zaman Auerbach used to tell over the following story. It happened in his class. When he was, a teenager, or maybe the early, says once in the middle of the class, the teacher noticed that two kids are playing. This is a poor class. They took the peels of the orange, and whenever they read a game, he stops teaching, he looks at them, and class is obviously frozen now. He left the class. He left. Came back after 3 minutes, he didn't say one word, and he continues. After class, the two came to him, and he said, do you know why I left the class? Because I was very hurt and angry. If I would raise my voice, I would lose. I cannot be angry at you. I understand what you did is definitely wrong, but in order not to be angry, I left. When I first felt that I'm calm, I came back. And now I'm asking you, what should I do? But at this point, of course, the two kids were crying, weeping. Smack us, give us whatever you want. They felt so guilty. So basically, he just raised his hand and he did like this, like we do to our grandchildren. From Zaman Auerbach was a young kid. He said no one in the class ever forgot it. Yes, this is a way to. But you understand, they realize that they are wrong. They realize how much they hurt him, and then they realize how careful and sensitive he was not to do it wrong. Now, there are many stories in the market, positive and negative, how teachers or parents react, and sometimes it has a very long-lasting impact. I think one of the stories that Rabbi Krohn published was You know, there are many similar stories, but this particular story. The story is probably the 50s. This is my guess. Because a kid came to class with a new watch. Who bought his son a watch at that time? The parents were probably Holocaust survivors. The nice watch. Lunchtime he left. He went out with the kids. He left the watch at the desk. He comes back. It's not there. Comes to the teacher. And the teacher says, listen, someone most likely took it. I'm asking whoever took it, stand up, nothing will happen to you, but of course no one did it. The teacher says, if this is the choice, I'll have to search your pockets. Everyone should stand near facing the window, his hands up. And the teacher went from kid to kid. He made a full round. Really, listen to what good, sensitive, wise teacher is. Full round, he says to the kids, okay, you can turn, sit down. I have the watch, he says. I'm sure that the kid that took it is definitely sorry. You know, none of you have a watch. He probably has a desire. I'm sure he's very sorry. He would never do it again. And he gives it back to the kid. The kid that really stole it, later in his life says that this was a turning point in his life. So the teacher definitely had the full right to punish me, to send me home, to invite my parents, whatever you want. But he didn't. Especially he didn't humiliate me. He says for him, this was a push to be a good person. It's a very big chokhmah, how to do it. Yeah. I think I told you one, there were 3 boys here in Brooklyn. It had a bad, the mission was each one of them is going to call one of the greatest rabbis, not a rabbi of a community elected by board members, one of the big people, later at night and ask a stupid, annoying question. Let's see how the people react. Salim, remember the story I told it to you once?
Yeah.
Anyway, a kid called Rabbi Feinstein, and the wife says, my husband, is it emergency or urgent? He says, yes, because my husband just lie down. He says, fine. Picks up the phone, and the kid asked the stupid question that he had, and Rabbi Feinstein right away realized it's a prank. Remember, he was in his pajamas. Says to the kid, my dear son, which Gemara you learning? He says, Baba Metzia. Which page did you learn today? He told him, I'm making it up, Lamed David. I have a question to ask you. He says, Rabbi, I don't know the Tosfot well. He says, Rabbi Feinstein, 11 o'clock at night, take out the Gemara, let's learn the Gemara together. This is the boy that called him. He learned the Gemara there and learns the Tosfot with him. After the kid really understood, he says, now I'm asking you a question. Now I'm making it up. This was 20 minutes, half an hour. The kid had a good head. He says, Rabbi, this is a real big question. Huh? Says Rabbi Feinstein, tomorrow in class, you're going to ask the teacher the question. He asked the question, and the teacher says, it's an amazing question. You really have to find an answer. He made a big deal out of it. The kid came home and he told his parents. The parents found the kid weeping. He says, look at me. I was a terrible kid. What Rabbi Feinstein made for me, a big man. Everyone in class looks at me, spoke to Rabbi Feinstein. I just said, this is what makes Ish Gadol Israel. Not only Vaish Moshe Anav, Rabbi Feinstein was Moshe. Rabbi Feinstein did not do anything. He made the kid realize on his own that he made a mistake. He said, a story like this you never forget. Guys, we have to stop because I have a cousin here downstairs who was locked out of the room.
Mm.
To see if we have to bring it up here to sleep by me, because I have to run. Laila Tov, everyone.
Thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom.
Shabbat shalom,
Shabbat
everyone.
shalom.
Bye. Good night.
Baruch Hashem. So tonight we'll learn on the old computer that I have. It's much clearer, much stronger. So write down.
That's 464?
No, this is the 55. This
Okay,
is
fine.
okay. So email everyone. It's open now, but you have to go downstairs because
Okay, fine, no, that's good, fine, okay, fine.
about 5 or 7 minutes. Bye.
Hi, Abba, how are you?
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem.
Okay,
How are you doing?
wait 2 minutes just to see if anybody else is coming on. Is going to come on. I just posted that, to use the other login.
The kids, everything came back to normal for you, yes?
Yeah, Baruch Hashem.
It was really a very nice experience. For me, I would have had to go to Eretz Yisrael anyway in the summer because I wasn't there for a long time. In the summer, it's much more difficult. It's hot, and you have more princess here, Baruch Hashem. We
Yeah.
stayed in a beautiful place, and it was very nice, Baruch Hashem. You got already the pictures?
No, not yet. It takes a couple of weeks.
I thought it's automatically, if you're taking a camera like this.
Yeah, no, but she took the lady takes so many that it takes, I know she goes through them and this and that.
Okay. when you have time, call the store in Flatbush.
Yeah.
Then I'll either I'll pick it up and bring it to the store and then exchange.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I guess we could start now here.
Until Chukas Bolok, we are still one parsha behind us. It's Israel. Chukas Bolok we catch. I'll start over a vote I saw today in this forum from Tells. It's a starke vote. See, by the end of the parsha, when Aaron and Miriam are comparing Moshe Rabbeinu to the other Levim, the Torah says, "Ve'aish Moshe onov me'od mikol ha'odom asher pnei Adom." Okay, stop the pshat. We have to know why is the Torah saying it? Okay, so the Rambam says, this is the Rambam. The Rambam says she is a sister who really gave her life for a brother. The Rambam is using the lotion, "Digloso yal birkeo," she raised him on her knees. And they didn't say anything negative. And according to the Rambam, "Ve'aish Moshe onov me'od," he didn't bother him b'chlal. And after became of the Torah, they were punished severely. Fine. So this is b'chlal why the Torah is saying. But the Meir Bloch is asking, what is Ve'aish Moshe onov me'od? Moshe onov me'od. What is Ve'aish? So he says a very choshev yesod. He says, take for instance Shaul HaMelech. Shaul HaMelech, it says in Sefer Shmuel, was a very, very humble man. In the beginning, he refused to be elected to be a melech. But at the end it is Achilles' heel because he was always so humble. This is how he failed. Because after Shmuel twisted his arm a few times, says, okay, Theoresi. This is by Amalek. Before that also, says Rabbi Meir Bloch, Anova is the biggest dagger a person can reach, but he has to remember to be an ish. Sometimes you have to be a man, and you have to do what has to be done now, even though what you're doing is almost the opposite from what Anova means. So, for instance, when Moshe Rabbeinu felt it was necessary, Moshe Rabbeinu was yelling at people. Moshe Rabbeinu, on his own, told Korach, Moshe Rabbeinu is all of Me'od, but Moshe Rabbeinu understood that when they are threatening the foundations of Torah Shabbat Peh, so it's beautiful. Ve'aish Moshe on of Me'od. Moshe was on of Me'od, but he was an ish. He knew that the mile that he has is a mile most of the times. You have to have the koyach in you זה tiefer pshat. The obvious shaila is, in general, how can the Torah say Vayish Moshe Olav Moed if the Torah says Vaykom B'Yisrael Ki Moshe Oed? Vayas, we think that Anova means look down on yourself. I know nothing, I did nothing. The big Meforshim say every person has to know exactly his minus, everyone has to know exactly his potential. The minute he's using this knowledge that he has to look down on other, there is a garnish, this is the opposite from another. Otherwise, but this is otherwise, okay. Moshe Rabbeinu knew exactly that he's the only one that pay double board. But he never looked on others. Other Meforshim are saying, V'aish Moshe Olav Moed Mikol Odom. Moshe Rabbeinu understood that every person is a Tzel Melukim B'Klal Yisrael. Okay, so Hashem gave me qualities, but we are basically the same. We were created by Hashem. And there is at the beginning of the parasha, Rashi is asking, why is the parsha of the menorah nismach and parshas Nesim? Because now we realize what the Nesim brought Chol Shodaita. So the Ramban is asking, of course, why is Chol Shodaita? You are the only Kohen. You are bringing the Korbanos. You are the only one who brings Torahs. Okay, so the Ramban has his own pshat. But the other Meforshim explain that the Medrash Tanchuma says, Keshoro Aroi. You can see the name here. Oh, ביום השביעי נוסו לבני אפרים על ישומע בן עמי. The day that the Mishkan was dedicated, right, was Sunday. So who is Bayom HaShvi'i? This is Shabbos. Says the Medrash Tanchuma, when Aaron saw that even on Shabbos, all the nedovas of the Nesim was accepted, he realized the koyach. Remember, this is a korban yochid. It is being offered on Shabbos. This is why Chol Shodaita. So what did Hashem promise him? Be'alois chos haneros. Like the Meshech Chochmeh, if you look in the Rambam in Ilchos Klei HaMikdash, and yes, Mikdash, the Rambam says that Adloke lav avoidei. The Ikar avoidei but the neres is the Hatovas haneres, preparing, changing the oil, changing the wicks. The lighting of the menorah, the Rambam Paskins, is kosher afilu bezar, which means if you take it out with the chotzer and a zar lights it, and then a coin will bring it in, it's fine. So what's the big in the chomor? The big in the chomor that Hashem gives him. Says Ramei Simcha Mavlik Yisod. Avada, a Zohar can do it. Avada, every Kohen can do it. But the first hadloke of the menorah had to be done by Yahweh. He's saying here a very big yesod. If the aschole, if the foundations is done correctly and rightfully so, especially by an Odom God like Aaron, this is an everlasting type of hadloke. Interestingly enough, the Ramban in the end of the Tzaveh, when when the Torah is telling us to build the Mizbeach HaKtoros, says, what's the purpose of the Mizbeach HaKtoros? Uve'alois haharoin es hanerois בין הארבעים יקטירנו כתרס תמיד לפני השם בדורסכם. The Torah twice says in the end of the Tzava that the Ketores and the Neres are done by Aaron. It's like the Ramban over there in the Tzava. Ketores is kosher by every Kohen. And he's asking over there, Neres are certainly kosher by every Kohen. Says the Ramban, the same Yesod of Ramei Simcha. It's the Yesod in life. When the Haschole is a strong Haschole, the Shem Shomayim, it's lasting forever. This is a very choshev posik when many people are complaining to Moshe that they want boso, they want this, they want that. Moshe Rabbeinu was telling Hashem he needs help. What was the help Hashem told him? As for Lin Shivim Lish Mizikne Israel, this is a Perek Yudalef, also this design. As for Lin Shivim Lish Mizikne Israel, Sheyodato Ki Heim Zikne Yom V'Shoitro. So Moshe Rabbeinu is selecting Sanhedrin of 70. They are going to share with him. Dr. Rashi, who are those people? Dr. Rashi, those people were the Shoitrim, the policemen in Mitzrayim, appointed by the Egyptians to beat up the Jews and to force them to do more and more, but they didn't do it. So the Rosh Rashi is Rashi says, Oisom she'ato makir shenismanu b'Mitzrayim ba'avodas perech, v'yu merachmim aleihem u'mukim al yodom, shene'emar v'yuku shoitre b'nei Yisrael, ato, the reward, ismanu b'gdulosom k'derech shenitztaru. So the Amavel Yisod, those people suffered on behalf of the people in Mitzrayim. Now they are becoming the first Sanhedrin of 70. A man that is mishtatef with the cloud, a man who is mitzvah b'tzar of the cloud, ein so to say, you have to l'rachu komoicho, bigger than that, and those are the ones. The real kasha is, if you look in Parshas Beshalach, the people had already slaughtered in Beshalach, right after the Mon came. Here, a year later, they're coming Be'asaf Suf Asher Bekir Bois Avu Tavo. We are fed up with all the. How is it possible? They just look at the psukim. Psukim. In Perek Yud Aleph, Pasuk Dalet, Pasuk says, Lo asaf suf asher bekir bo yisavu tavo, Vayeshuvu vayivku. How is it possible? Rashi is asking. Rashi says, מי יאכלנו בוסו וכיל הויו לו עם בוסו? הלא כבר נאמר, וגם ערב רבו לו יתום. When a person is unhappy, he's always complaining. More than that, they said we are fed up already with the mon. I think years ago, I heard years ago, a Mordechai Gifter stayed by his son, I think in one of our bungalow colonies that we stayed. But gesagt, is avu taivo, sie gewollt, dass soll noch mal taivo, you know what I mean? Which means, normally, if you eat a tuna fish sandwich, you eat a carbo steak, after you finish, you're not hungry, right? What you ate makes a difference, yeah? Difference is that when you see the meat, smell the meat, you have an inner desire to do it. By the morn, whatever you wanted, you can get. You wanted the taste of a carbo steak? Have the morn, the taste of carbo steak. The answer is no. This is what he said. Is avu ta'avo. They wanted to have an inner desire to have it and then to have the meat. You realize? Which means it's the epitome of Gashmias. It's not that I want food because I'm hungry. I want to feel that I have a desire and I'm fulfilling my desire. This is how Yom Gewollt. But all the Meforshim really talk about it, and we understand what they say. But keep in mind that we're talking about people. They stayed by Har Sinai from Sivan till next year, Chof Iyar. This is almost a year. And now, we are afraid to look on it this way, but all the Meforshim say, in the Akdome von Das Chochma und Musar von Yeruchem, they bring a letter that Moshe Rosenstein, the Mashgiach of Lomje, wrote about Rabbi Yeruchem. Says he was a young man in Telz. When he used to come to Yontef to his parents, he used to speak. He writes it. He was learning in Telz. And he used to talk a lot to Rabbi Yeruchem. And he says he felt that Rabbi Yeruchem is a different type of Ben Torah. Okay, at the end, of course, Rabbi Yeruchem convinced him to go to Kelm, and he became the famous Moshe Rosenstein. Many fascinating stories about him. But he says like this. I don't have it here, it's in another room. He says he was asking him then, how is it possible coming from Har Sinai is Abu Taiba? I mean, all these mistakes that they made here in Sefer Bamidbar. So he says, I expected him to give me a deep philosophical. This is what he writes. So Rabbi Yeruchem started with a niggun of about Tfilah. 40 שנה קוד בדור, ואימרם תוהי לבוביהם, והם יודו תוכחון. Of course, the niggun is not written in the Sefer, which means, basically, Rabbi Yeruchem told him, this is a mensch. This is the biggest chidush of real Musar is, this is a mensch. You can be the greatest man and have an amazing experiences and inspiration, and you have desires, and unless we are learning to identify those desires and to learn how to deal with them. Interestingly enough, I have a sefer here. Vayelchu Shneim Yachdov. Dov Cohen was an American boy from Seattle, Washington. So the entire book. His mother wanted him very much to learn in Eretz Yisrael. He came to in Hebron. It's fascinating to read. Luckily enough, he was there by the pogrom and saved. Then, they moved to Hebron. And he says he went to ask Reb Leib Chasman once the same type of a question. Wie kann es sein? I mean, how is it possible? So he says, Reb Leib hat mir gesagt, a Mensch is a Mensch. Also schreibt so. Took me years to realize the MS. Which means we are great, we have neshomes, we have great potential, but sometimes, unless we learn to identify and to deal with it, I mean, these parshas are the schwerste parshas. They say that one of the greatest I forgot, Be'emes, from the Goyser Hasidim, Rebbe, said to his friend, every year when we read these parshas, he feels bad, to read on all the mistakes that Klal Yisrael had. This is Yidden Klal Yisrael. But the other Rebbe told him, do you realize that from the Averes that they did, we have a Chumash? He says, I wish from our mitzvahs we would not have Averes, which means the Torah wrote it to teach us a lesson. This is a mirror into a human mind, yes? Then you're coming out of, that's a couple of Satir. They say, here the Pasuk says that they moved the Chof year, almost a year, and right after, which means that every inspiration and everything that we hear or see, we have to work on it. Here, I saw today in the Sefer of Ramot Chedruk, I remember as a kid, I was very young, which means it's over, it's crazy, about 70 years ago. There was a kid, you hear this, that was born, and he knew Shas Baal Pei, knew Chumoshim, Rambam. I mean, the way it was said is that the Malach forgot to. Can you imagine you meet a kid of 3 or 4 and he tells you Gemaras and Rambam? At the end was that they brought him to the Belzer Rebbe, and the Belzer Rebbe gave him a patch there, and he forgot. Right? Someone from America wrote at that time to Reb Chatzkel, is it MS or not MS? And if it's MS, maybe you should bring him to America and show all our brothers and sisters who are very far from Yiddishkeit that Torah is MS. The kid knows Kol HaTorah Kula. So Reb Chatzkel writes back to him, Avadi, it's MS, I live a few blocks away from the family. And I think he said that my daughter went to see it. And then I wanted to go also, says Reb Chatzkel. Then I decided not to go. Why? This is Reb Chatzkel at his best, but this is what he says. He says everything in our religion is a Kabbalah. I believe in Yetzias Mitzrayim because this is what I heard from the previous generations. The Kabbalah, the Emunah in Mesoras HaTorah. If I have to see it, obviously I don't believe. I don't believe completely. Yes. If people tell me that this is it, and the Gemara says that someone knows Kol HaTorah Kula, remember this is a Chatzkel and his Darby. Yes, of course for us, we would be crazy not to go to see it. But by us, because it's an event. He looked on it. If you look at the kid, it's mamish an open Gemara that someone is doing it. Says, I don't believe the Gemara without seeing it. This is Reb Chatzkel. Many, many years ago, which means about 35 years ago, the New York Times had an article that after many years of research, scientists found out that the time when a woman becomes pregnant, the time that it takes for the chromosome to be X or Y, male or female, is approximately 6 weeks of pregnancy. After that, it's already in Ikva. This is an article in the Times. A week later, At that time, the Times published it. Someone writes back, he says, it's amazing that science came up with it, but if you look, says in the Babylonian Talmud, says up to, remember the Gemara, up to 40 days from the time a woman becomes pregnant, you can pray if you want a zochor and a kever. After 40 days, this is mamash this, yes. 40 days is 6 weeks of pregnancy. Mamash, at that time, I was teaching in the Rablipas camp there, and what's his name? Brudny, not the older Brudny, was there also. So he says something very good. This is what he said. He said something, and this letter to the editor said something very nice. Rav Shach writes in Avi Ezri that he was asking the Riskarov, why is the mitzvah believing in Hashem called Emunah? As everyone knows, the Chuvas Avos, anyone that is honest and straight, understands there's no way that a tree can grow on its own, the same way that monkeys cannot paint a Rembrandt. The Bria is screaming, Hashem created it. So why is it called Emunah? It's a fact. So Briskerov told him, Mir gefragt, the Tate Eichel, gefragt Reb Chaim. So Reb Chaim told him, whatever you understand in Seichel, it's not Emunah. Emunah begins when the Seichel ends. Eino guf, הרי הסיגור משיגי הגוף, ואינו שום דמיון כלל. This is, you cannot understand it, this is Emunah. And the fact that אני מאמין באמונה שלמה, שהבוירך, fine. So Brudny said, very nice. He says, up till now, he said, this Mishnah in Brochus that says that you shouldn't daven past 40 days, we believed in it. Chazal say, but today, after the discovery of the scientists, it's not, he says, it's not Emunah anymore. This is a fact. Say Hashem, Omitach. Okay, have a wonderful, wonderful night, everyone. Shkoyach and Mutz Hashem.
It's interesting, Abba. I read recently. I forgot. I'm not sure if you. I don't think you told me. I read somewhere they said that Rabbi Chanan used to say over. I'm not sure if it was every year. The whole story with the dibuk. You know that the Chavetz Chaim said to get rid of it. But he said that he was. I don't know exactly how he said it, but he wasn't happy that he went. He said why? He said, because until now, like everything was Emunah, and everything. He said the fact that he saw that everything that Chavetz Chaim said was going to happen and that he saw it, he said it took away from his Emunah. He said, because he saw it, along these lines also.
Right, it's the same vote of,
he said it wasn't Emunah.
I saw it. Right. This is what the Mord Chaduk said about Pratzko. This is what the Pratzko.
Right. Yeah, it takes away.
This is famous in all this forum on Kelem, that once the Alter of Kelem wanted everyone based on Talmud in Kelem to look on a dead body. Someone died. Why? You see death, it gives you a shock. Then he said he realized it doesn't do anything. It might shake you for the moment, but unless you are walking on and internalizing what you saw. So if you are walking on yourself, you don't have to see the body. You know what I mean? It's the same Nekuda. Same Nekuda. Gleich gesund, a gute Nacht.
Have a Kota for the Shabbos.
Oh,